Welcome back to the M3 podcast. This weekend, we got Ricky and Alex on from the MMG crew. We got Isaac Collins. Appreciate you being here.
Happy to be here.
I'm starting to think old Alex here is trying to take over the podcast, bringing all these Missouri Western people on.
I did some research to see who was on, and there was at least 2 people that I knew from back in the day. So
yeah, he keeps sliding.
A full-time recruiter here.
Yeah,
there's a lot of Maryville in our office and in our midst, so I got to balance the scales a little.
The showdown.
Yeah.
Showdown.
Old Hayes, Kansas down there.
Fort Hayes, represent.
Man,
Tigers.
Tigers?
Tigers.
Yeah, Tigers.
Hayes America.
Hayes America.
Dang, what was the conference? MIAA?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I definitely should know.
You were
that.
in it.
I should definitely know
You
that.
were in it.
I feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
We've got at least one Pitt State.
Yeah.
Lots of representation.
Yeah.
I love it.
We
D2.
have a lot of representation D2 wise.
Yeah, D2's life.
Do we have a lot of D1 representation?
Got anyone?
Oh, we got a few.
A little bit?
Yeah, I got
A
KU
little bit.
and MU in here.
Yeah, never mind. A lot of D2 representation. But I know you're very involved with a lot of different things. And I don't even think I know the full scope of everything that you do.
Yeah.
I think we've touched on a few different things. And I mean, Yogurtini KC here. We got represent right at the
Product
front.
placement.
Yeah. But let's start. Where do you want to start the story at? Do you want it more business-wise from college on? Do we want to start before college? What kind of got you the spark into business? Where are we starting here?
I always like to start just from the beginning.
Where were you? What hospital were you born at?
So I was born here in Kansas City, Truman Medical Center. That's now. It's called something else now. I don't know what it's called.
Very
now.
beginning.
Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, beginning, and I'll kind of speed through it. And I know this guy was there for some of it, but born and somewhat raised in Kansas City. Moved to St. Joe when I was pretty young. A big part of my story. My parents were into, I like to say, semi-illegal entrepreneurial endeavors that took us out of Kansas City overnight to St. Joe, where we had to start fresh. We can get into that later. But we started fresh. I went to St. Joe, and I lived there from 3 to 23. We came back to Kansas City a little bit, seeing both sides of the family, but I was a St. Joe guy at that point. Thought I was going to go somewhere else and play D1 football. Didn't work. Played D2. Ended up being the best thing. Stayed there in St. Joe. Went to Missouri Western. Got a business degree, management and marketing. Kind of always knew that I wanted to be in business and be my own business owner, but I didn't think it was going to happen until I was like 45, 50, like do corporate America for a few decades, stack up the dollars to buy a business. But my sophomore year of college, they created an entrepreneurial program that was helping graduating seniors to get into business. I got a chance to watch it for 3 years. Obviously, you know this story. And when it was time for me to graduate, I took that course that was helping them get into business. I won my year, and that launched me into business ownership at 23, owning a Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. So that's the shortish version of my life.
So I think it's very unique in the college world that the entrepreneurial state is pushed.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is something alone that is just really unheard of.
Yeah.
The first time when you were bringing that up, and Alex and I were even talking when we were driving in the truck the other day, there was nothing I saw in college that pushed that direction whatsoever.
Yeah.
So what did that look like in college, having that as a course, having that as something that even helped with the knowledge base to go that way?
Well, actually, it was a pretty big split because our 4 majors were marketing, management, accounting, and finance. I learned 0 things about owning a business the 4.5 years that I was there. It wasn't until the capstone course that was helping us get into business that I learned how to run a business, how to write a schedule, looking at labor, profit margins and labor, and how to do marketing effectively, which what you learn in school, how to do marketing, how you actually do marketing, actually, you know, this is very different.
I have a geology degree and a minor in physics. No marketing degree.
Well, I can agree that there's a big gap.
Rocks?
Yep. Dalton and I know our shit.
This was also covered in another podcast recently where Giovanna jumps in and goes,
Nerds!
Oh, I remember that part. I did see that part.
Yeah.
I did see that part. I'm so curious how geology translated over to business. So
that's a pretty short story, actually. My dad just always been in business, and he told my brother and I if we wanted to work full time at the dealership, we had to go to college, we had to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
After we graduated, we had the opportunity to work in the dealership space. So
That does not explain geology, though.
I started off pre-med, and I hated
Okay.
sitting in a classroom. And I excelled, and I had one really bad semester when I first met Madison, because I never went to class, so
Yeah.
that was on me. But first geology class I took, we went outside all the time. We go to local places and go hiking and map and just getting to do field work. And I was like, this is way better than sitting in that classroom. If I'm going to have to be here, I might as well do something I like.
Yeah, that's dope.
So
Yeah, that makes sense.
I enjoyed it. But I didn't learn anything about business when I was in college.
Yeah.
So.
I didn't either. I think I think I have a little bit of different views on schooling and stuff than you'd have heard a little bit. But I do think that my experience was different because I took that capstone course. And the reason why it was different is it was started by essentially my mentor, who's, if he's not a billionaire, he's damn near a billionaire. And so it was him who started the program, donated like $5.5 million to the program, created, that was like his crown jewel, because he wanted to help graduating seniors become business owners. Outside of that, there was nothing. Like, there was no opportunity to really learn entrepreneurship. Like, I didn't know that word was a thing really until I was several years into owning a business. It was just, you were a business owner.
And the crazy thing to that point was I saw so many people go to college and get business degrees that the actual business owners I know would run circles around them.
Yeah.
That have no business degree.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what are these people learning? Because you're sitting there, you're talking to them about business, and you're like miles over their head. I'm like, this is just what I've learned from my dad. I was like, you don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, what does a business class entitle in college if it's not teaching you about business?
There is a breakdown in what's being taught for sure. Because I think the information isn't bad. You have a business degree, right?
Mine was in PR and marketing.
Okay. So ish. Yeah.
Ish.
So like, I think the information's good, but if you're going from high school to college, you're probably working at like fast food or apparel or something like that. Like, you don't have any real world experience in the business world, especially on owning a business. So the stuff you're learning like goes in one ear and out the other. So I think none of it gets applied because it's like, you don't remember what you learned in this professor's class or that professor's class. So I think they should like do more real world learning. Like, there has to be, to make that stuff land. Like, you're learning this stuff. Here's how it applies to a business, whether you're the entrepreneur, or just somewhere like a cog in the machine. You still need to know like this is a business.
Yeah, and we did that at Missouri Western. I remember they did bring in a program that was called the Conference of Applied Learning in Higher Education, and I was on the board for that as a student. Where they saw
brag.
Yeah,
you guys are the two that own successful businesses. I sneak in that I was a part of a conference, and I'm the one that gets shit on
the board.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Anyway, so Ricky has a YouTube channel where he did parkour as a 12-year-old.
We'll link it.
We're already there. We're 10 minutes and we're already at the parkour.
there.
But I think the biggest thing that I learned through that was that the applied learning is what made all of the difference. And I think that is one of the biggest problems that I have with higher education is to be a professor, you have to have hit a certain level of education. So what you find is a lot of people who have just gone through education, and then they are just regurgitating the knowledge that they are getting from the education they received in order to give them the accreditation to then teach to other people. And to me, I'm like, where was your applied learning? You know, I don't really care that you read a bunch of books, you wrote a bunch of papers, and you passed a bunch of tests. I want to hear from people who have actually been practitioners of the information that they are spewing out. Because when I graduated, there was not a single time where I heard anything about how SEO worked, Google AdWords, any of those things that were actually happening and people were actually hiring for. And then when you graduate, you're like, okay, I have all this information. They're like, yeah, so does every other graduating senior across 4,000 higher education institutions who's graduating right now. What makes you any different? Because these are all of the types of things that we are actually needing help in and that we're actually doing. And you don't know anything about any of this stuff. It's like, because you're not learning from practitioners, you're learning from people who are just regurgitating education they received. Yeah. That's my biggest dispute with higher ed.
So while Dre and I were nominated to be the DECA judges for Missouri for marketing, so we go to this big, huge conference, and like these kids came
4 seasons in Missouri, or are you at the like national one?
So it was the Missouri one. So it was at UMKC. I think they brought it.
Okay.
It was like a high school level that they bring in all these kids from all over. We get there and I'm like, I don't know how we got nominated. And I was like, we were not poster students, but surprise. And they're like, you guys are like going to judge for the marketing side. So we end up with these tables and we have these like high schoolers come in and they get, I think it was like 10 to 15 minutes to come up with a full marketing pitch for these big corporate companies. And they would be given a new product and how they're going to market it. Their two options that they were given on how to market was billboards or mailers.
Oh, gosh.
Stop it.
I look at this, the first kid, I was like, one. I was like, and then finally the teacher comes over. I was like, do they have any other options besides these two? And they're like, she's like, yeah, that's what we've been going over in class. I was like, oh my God. I was like,
I don't think that surprises me. I mean,
That's my
you
point.
have a marketing degree. I have a marketing degree. That doesn't surprise me. So I think to what you were saying, I think one thing is they need to upgrade their software on what exactly they're teaching. Because I think knowledge is, I know we all agree, like knowledge is incredibly important. Like you need to learn to be able to take that and do the things. But like while you're learning, I think you have to be applying what you're learning. So like my program, it was a capstone course. It was the spring semester 2012. We would learn and then we'd be in store. We'd learn the thing, and then we'd meet with different advisors in store or in their office learning the thing. And then we'd have other business owners in the St. Joe community come in and talk to us about whatever it was. Like each week we had a different person that came in. It's like we learned it, we applied it. We learned it, we applied it. And then we're in a Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory store, like learning how to make the products. But then it was like one day is operations, one day is sales, one day is marketing. And still all those things are pretty old schoolish, but with us learning from 40, 50, 60-year-old professors, we kind of knew, okay, we got to modernize their strategy for marketing. And we had those skills because we were on Facebook and Instagram was just getting going at that point. Like, okay, we got to leverage this new knowledge that we have. So I absolutely think you have to have like both of those, the knowledge and the application of it. And then, yeah, colleges have to get up to snuff on what's going on.
and I think in the marketing world, it's moving so fast that you have to adapt with it so quickly that we've had people come in the office and they're telling us something. I was like, that YouTube video that you regurgitated that from, did you check when that was posted? And they normally look at me like glazed, like, what are you talking about? I was like, that was straight from a YouTube video. When did you watch this? And when was that video posted? And most of the time they'll get a little defensive, but then they kind of come back around. They're like, well, I ended up looking up. And I was like, the video that you watched was from 4 years ago.
Yep.
I go, if I give you one word of advice here, if you're going to watch YouTube videos, you're going to watch anything to learn in the marketing space, make sure it's current knowledge.
Yeah.
Because the way Meta operates from 4 years ago, Meta doesn't operate the way it did 6 months ago.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm like, with iOS, the things that iOS has changed with tracking across app to the pixel to everything else is like overnight differences that we're having to adapt to. And we have business owners that come in, they're like, I'm pretty proficient with Facebook ads. I go look at their ads. I'm like, one, your content's terrible. I was like, let's look at your ad structure. I was like, it's
Two, you're just boosting your post. You're not even doing an actual ad.
I'm like, yeah, what does it look like in Business Manager? Like, what's Business Manager? Which, to be fair, I was in that spot once where when we started MMG, I didn't know there was a backside of Meta. And we just were with dealerships. Nobody was doing video. We were posting videos, just boosting them. And it worked.
Yeah.
It was
That's
simple.
my same exact story.
And it was like, we're moving cars for dealerships and they think we're like the most cutting edge people I'm like, how has no one else caught on to this? And we're at one dealership and the guy's like, asked me like all this information about the ads. I'm like, how would I know that?
I don't know.
And he's like, your business manager's going to tell you all that stuff. And I'm like, looking at Dre, I'm like, have you heard of business manager?
Who is our business manager?
Yeah,
Are you the business manager? Am I?
Is he here in this room with us right now?
Do you see the business manager? Because I don't.
So he pulls up this page I'm looking at. I'm like, never seen that page in my life.
That's so good.
But it was just like, that was a whole new movement for us. So we came home and the first thing we did was pulled YouTube up on TV. Started like, we got to figure out what this is doing.
Man, I think that story's dope because mine is similar in that way. But the dope part about it is like still with you not doing the full ads through Business Manager and Ads Manager and whatnot. What you were doing is still leagues above what others are doing, and not talking bad about other business owners. Again, it's the education piece. So if you don't have that information of what to do in that regard, it's hard to do the things like talking to friends and having clients that have businesses and like trying to figure out where they are and where they're trying to be. I mean, a lot of them are trying to perfect their product, perfect their service, perfect their service. And at a certain point, you just got to get more foot traffic. You got to get on your website, in your doors. Like me coming from brick and mortar food, I need people in my store. Like our margins are 80%. That is not a problem we have. We need more people in our doors. So for me, I've been in business for 12 years. I've always done boosted posts up until the beginning of this year when I hired my friend and my now creative director, who has given us a really dope website, switched us from doing boosted posts to actual ads. Our content got 1,000,000 times better. Like we went from having an Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn for every store to now it's combined. So it's one for each. So we can just like utilize our time a lot better. And it's just worked a lot better. But like I took it as far as I could, and then I had to hand the baton and let her run with it and just like learn.
And I think the evolution of business happens just like the evolution of anything.
Yep.
That you look at how far cars have come, look at how far houses have come, look at how far everything has come to this point. It's the same thing with business, that you're not going to come right out the gate with the perfect recipe of how it works. You come out and we have fallen on our face. My thing is, I just want to be taking a step to have the opportunity to fall or figure it out.
Yeah.
And it's as long as we keep stepping and we keep moving, something's going to happen. Good, bad, and different, something is going to happen. And that's where the amount of things we've figured out that now when we start with a company, our price tag is, 5 times higher than what we started with. But now it's, okay, what does a full marketing strategy look like? Who is that perfect audience? How do we talk to that audience? What does the creative look like for that audience? And it's so many more pieces of what actual marketing looks like. But before, when I was on the other side of the table for marketing companies, they were terrible at explaining that.
Yeah.
And they may have done a bunch of work behind the scenes that no one saw, but their executed marketing was not yielding results, which that's where they were missing the mark, which a simple guy from Kearney, I recognized. I'm like, if you look at your business page and you want to follow it yourself, why the hell would anyone else?
Yeah.
Like
100%.
at that simple level, like I've always been very simple. Like I don't think I'm the smartest dude in a room ever. Like it's just simple looking at things. How do other people perceive it? And the companies post stuff all the time. I'm like, would you follow your own page? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, why the hell would anyone else? You love your business more than anybody.
Yeah. 100%.
It's the same thing making apparel. Like when we start making apparel, I'm like, I don't want to walk around with a t-shirt with my logo on the left chest.
Yeah.
I don't. Like, and I love MMG. It's literally slapped over everything I own.
It is.
And I'm like,
everywhere.
I don't want to wear that. I'm like, why would anyone else?
Yeah.
So it's like you look at it from all aspects of marketing. And when you start putting content out there, then I'm like, people actively want to see this. If you're not being complimented on your content all the time, your content is wrong.
Yeah.
And it just boils down to like what you were saying. At the end of the day, you're saying, I need foot traffic. I need people in the door. Right. So then the hardest conversations for me to endure is then when the person on the marketing side is like, well, if you look at the spreadsheet here, our cost per click are way up. Our CPMs are doing really well. Look at the conversion rate on stuff. I'm like, foot traffic.
Yeah.
Foot traffic. I don't see it. So the numbers are good to a certain level. But at the end of the day, if you're saying we don't actually see conversion of sales or foot traffic, then that's the biggest issue. And when they try to hide behind the spreadsheets, when you hide behind the spreadsheets and you're not willing to address the end of line problem.
Yeah, I think one of the easiest things when it comes to that is also just listening to your customers. So 100%. Like for us, I don't think we do anything revolutionary, but our sales have been up year over year for the last going on 13 years. I haven't had a year outside of the COVID years where it was down. And it's not because I do anything revolutionary. I know I do a lot better than my competitors. That's why there's literally no frozen yogurt stores that are left in Kansas City that isn't Yogurtini, except for one. And we're working on a deal with them now. And so it's a really amazing thing. Like the customers will tell you what they want. And then the other part of that is giving them something that they don't know they want. Like really listening in between the lines. Like, what are they saying? So like when I owned my Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, I was in small town Iowa. I was there, owned it for 4 years total, but was up there for 3 years. I worked all the time. Open to close. For 2 of the 3 years that I was up there, I had 2 employees that would just come in on Saturday and Sunday to just help out in between because we were so busy. I couldn't do it all. So I got a lot of reps and listening to my customers. Oh, you do this, but can you make this? So, hey, I saw this on Facebook the other day. Can I send it to you? Can you make this? I'm like, yeah, get the number, make it, send it to them later, send it to them for free. Like, hey, here you go. And they come back. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do in there that is just serving your customers. Sometimes we get lost in the sauce and forget that we're here to serve, and we think our customers are here to serve us. So it's a really cool thing when you look at that and you're like, what do you want? Like, what is the need here? And like, one of the simple things that has revolutionized our business is our flavor mix. Like, it's simple, but whenever we brought in multiple non-dairy flavors, that revolutionized a lot of things for us. Because outside of like straight vegan frozen dessert places, most places when you go there, they have maybe 1 non-dairy flavor. If you go to our stores, we have at least 5. And if you are non-dairy, you know, when you go somewhere, it's probably going to be a fruity flavor. It's probably going to be like raspberry or lemonade or something like that, pineapple. But for ours, we have a chocolate, we have a vanilla. Right there, that revolutionizes it because they feel normal again. But that's like feedback that we got. Like, we want to feel like we're everyone else. We want to feel included. We want to feel seen in that. And so bringing that in was great. Then we brought in a no sugar added. People kind of liked it, but the calories weren't low enough. So we formulated a new cocktail, and then we did another one, and we brought that in with chocolate and vanilla. So when they came in, they had multiple options that were really, really low calorie that they could have. I noticed my dad would come in and only get a sample. And I'm like, my guy, like, why do you do that? Like, and he's like, it's too high calorie. So then he was the inspiration, and he helped me formulate our new flavors when it came to keto friendly and no sugar added. Now we saw a ton of it.
I think that comes to the point of service and hospitality. I mean, you have service is black and white, hospitality is color. Mm-hmm. And it's when you look at those two things of what is true hospitality for a business. Yeah. It's something I think about. It lives in my mind rent free all day, every day, is what is someone's experience when they walk into our building from the second they walk in, how are they greeted by other people that are inside of our walls? How does the bathroom hold up? How does the water that they get hold up? How is the folder that they get? That I even look, I'm obsessed with Walt Disney on how he had done it. He has built something outside of his lifetime. And I think that speaks volumes. But it's a hospitality of, he did studies on how long someone will walk with a piece of trash before they drop it. They have trash cans every 27 feet. Yeah. If you look at, the ground is different between each area because people can close their eyes. That if you close your eyes, you walk through your house, you know when you're in your living room, to your kitchen, to a bedroom, most of the time by the ground. Yeah. It's like if you're in your driveway and you walk into the grass, you close your eyes, you're going to know where you're at. To where he put different concretes everywhere. And you think of that as a price tag at his level.
That's a crazy level of just detail.
And you think about that detail, like to us, we're like, okay, if we went put trash cans 27 feet apart, we would go spend probably a few $100s on trash cans. But he made it to where you don't even recognize that there's trash cans there. You look at those resorts, that was probably a $10 million
just in trash cans.
Just in trash cans. That were like
27 feet.
That's wild. Like, and then disguising them and everything else. And it was like, you just looked at the smallest point of details of what he did and the hospitality side that he focused so much on the customer experience. That's all he cared about. And like you said, you can get caught in the sauce, and you look at restaurants that there's a book on hospitality, and you look at Michelin star restaurants and what makes a Michelin star restaurant a Michelin star. And it's not just on food, it's on the service side too. That this guy worked at a restaurant in New York, and right when people would come in, they'd ask if they had parked their car, and if it was out of meter, they would go out and put quarters in the meters to make sure that they never had to get out.
Are you talking about, what's that book? It's a yellow book.
Yep.
Something hospitality. It's literally right on my bed, and I haven't touched it since I got it. It's like unrelentless. That's I think it's
it starts with a U. It's but
gosh,
it really talks about.
It's a good book.
Yeah, great book. But they talk about like Michelin star restaurants when they come up and they're asking you what kind of water you want. They're making hand signals behind their back that the water's going to be brought up to you while the waitress or waiter is standing there talking.
It's crazy.
But it's like those small little things that make up the big picture that so many people don't focus on, that it's so easy when you're in business and you're grinding, you're watching the spreadsheets, you're watching numbers and everything, that you're just like, okay, we're not going to mess with this. That's not big enough to make it on my radar right now. But that one person that walks in, it does.
Yeah. So one thing that I teach my team is those small details matter, because there's a feel when customers come in. Anyone goes in a space, you feel it. If something is on and everything's working and is sync, you can feel that. If something is off, you can also feel that. Like I can walk into a business and feel if there's tension between the employees or if something's kind of weird or whatever it is. And since I'm also in the industry, especially with food, I am very, I guess I'll say judgmental in the way of the expectation in which I want to eat in. So if I walk in and I see an even halfway messy store, I can't eat there because I've been in food for so long. So that's just a problem that I have. But I think people just overlook some things sometimes. They're like, oh, it's not a big deal. Or, oh, we'll get it later or whatever. Like I got on my team today. I walk into our Overland Park store and we have, our ceilings are however tall, but we have they had a 12-foot ladder sitting like up on our wall as people are going back to the bathroom. And I'm like, this is the second time that I've seen this. Like, this can't happen because that's a liability, but that's also not supposed to be there.
Right.
So that feels very out of place for a customer when they walk in trying to have this candy store experience, and our decor and everything's looking good. The music is popping. It's decorated, Christmas. I almost said Halloween. Decorated for Christmas, and everything is smelling good, and toppings look good, and yogurt machines are all cleaned up and everything. And they walk back to get their cup to do their self-serve experience, and there's a 12-foot ladder right next to them. Mm-hmm. That throws off the whole vibe. Like that matters. That matters. And so that's just, I'm anal on that, but people are going to give you a chance. And if you mess up that first encounter, they're not coming back.
Yeah.
Like I think it's like 66%, of people, even if they have a good experience, they're not going to come back regardless, just because they're transient, they're eating somewhere else or whatever it is. Like you have to go above and beyond to knock it out of the park.
So it's, most people won't remember what you say. Most people won't remember what you do, but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yep.
And we get more people that when they come in the office, like there's just a vibe. There's like a feel when you're here. Mm-hmm.
And that's intentional.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's another piece that people don't talk about enough, is that, oh, you guys have a culture, you have an atmosphere, and there are very rarely places where you're going to go where you have such a positive atmosphere or culture, when someone can walk in and it's palpable to someone who is not used to that setting, that it wasn't an intentional decision made by people, right? We talk about the Disney part of it. It wasn't just off a whim where he's like, let's just put in a shit ton of trash cans, guys. like, you know, it'd be really sick. What if we just change the floor all the time?
Everywhere.
Right. But it's the people who'd have the intentionality behind it and that quality control of, hey, that ladder is not going to be there when people get here. Yep. We had production today where we had to, we spent so long breaking down this room, reconfiguring all kinds of stuff. And right as we're finishing getting it set up, Dane walks in. He's like, when are the clients going to be here? Because this room's a disaster. I'm like, we haven't gotten there, but yes, this room will not be in this condition when the clients get here.
I'm like, they're 15 minutes out. I was like, and I start calling all hands at the office around. I was like, start getting shit out to the dumpster, start getting this cleaned up. Because what I don't want is them, somebody walking by them with trash as they're walking in. Mm-hmm. Like, they just picked this up right now. Like,
yeah, that's super dope though, that it comes from the top. Like, you're at the top of this. Obviously your team is literally family, but it comes from the top of the culture, the standard, all that kind of stuff. So to say that reinforces, oh, okay, we're here with a certain standard, excellence, all that kind of stuff. So I think that's dope.
No one's too good to take the trash out. Like, if the trash is getting full and you're there, it doesn't matter who you are. Someone's going to do it if you're the person that does it, and it's an expectation set from top down. Yeah. You know, just that certain level that you need to have across no matter who it is. But I also do want to segue one point real quick. I think there are 2 points. There are 2 points you've hit on, and I'm like, I think we need to address. So I don't know which one we want to tackle first. One of them we're coming up on, and one we currently experience ourselves. One of which is the dynamic of the people that work for you, given the industry that you work in, having the constant change and the young ages of people that you have to bring in. I have to bring in, make it sound like it's a bad situation,
Yeah,
but the age groups being one of them. The second part of that is you started off as a business owner, and then that elevated into multiple locations, and now us coming into having multiple locations. Luckily, we're not that far apart, but regardless, they are still two different buildings. So I guess just like when we're talking about those, which ones pop out to you?
I'm gonna 100% forget the second one, so bring it back to my attention.
Cool.
But the first one, so when I started in 2012, my Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, we had 2 employees. When I sold that, we had 6. At the end of my 3rd year, I moved back to Kansas City because that's where my family was, and besides my friends, all that kind of stuff. Everyone graduated from Missouri Western, moved to Kansas City. And so wanted to join everybody. So bought my first Yogurtini. There was a year we had both. So we had 6 to 8 at Rocky Mountain. And then I inherited a team of 13. And then after I sold Rocky Mountain, I came across too much money, way more money than I thought that I should have at 24. And then we just started doing stuff. We bought more locations. We threw it at startups. I started a nonprofit, just did stuff. Some of it was great. Some of it was a disaster, but you learn. And so what I learned that I really love my industry of frozen yogurt. And I get that question a lot. Like, why this? Like, former athlete, all this kind of stuff. Why like candy stores? And I always say that I call it the third home. You have your home, you have your local coffee shop, which that's always going to be above your frozen yogurt. But we hope to be that third place that when you walk in, we know your name, we accommodate you, all that kind of stuff. And so it is the hospitality piece. That's a really good way to put it. Instead of saying service, like it is that hospitality that goes a little bit farther in that. And so I love what I do. And my favorite part is my people. Also, my least favorite part, unfortunately, is my people. People are going to people. You know what I'm saying? So it can be super good.
People are going to people. That could be the name of this podcast.
You know?
right.
For real.
Tagline.
Seriously. And so like we have 55 employees between our 3 locations. 51 of them are below 20. And I pride myself on like kind of understanding Gen Z and whatnot, because that's who we have. Like most of them are high schoolers. And I always think it's funny when people say that, like, oh, this generation, like they're lazy. Like every prior generation says that about the next generation. So I think that's hilarious. But I kind of tapped into it a little bit of understanding what makes them tick. I don't think they're lazy. I think they're focused. I think they're purpose driven. And if there's not purpose in it and they feel like they're not being respected, they're out. They're not going to do it. And so just trying to figure out how to get on their level and understand what makes them tick has been very, very important for us. And it's been different going from 1 location to 2 locations to 3, because when I had 1, I was the guy that was managing. I didn't have anyone else. I only had 5 other people, so it was easy. And then having the second location, having to kind of split time, but at least have some variation of a leader, but kind of doing the 2-store thing. When I went to 3, they were close enough where I could bebop around, but I still had to have leaders. And I kind of led with 1 leader for a long time. But the problem with that is if that leader quits, now you're stuck back in a store. And it took me a long freaking time to figure that out. So then we built in cushion. And then we just kind of threw people in there. We had a store manager, we had a assistant manager, and it worked. But the thing that also took me a long time to figure out is there is a culture piece that is so important, because we are hiring high schoolers and they need a lot of attention and they need a lot of love. And so I want a manager that has a passion to pour into them. Again, because if they don't feel seen, then they're out. And so whenever we started doing that, our retention shot up. So that was really, really amazing and really helped what we've been able to do, because this has by far been our best year. I think we really haven't lost that many people this year, which like when you have people and you can just snowball build on that, it's been super dope for us.
Do you struggle though with hiring that age group that they go off to college, and it's my deal is every single person I've pulled the trigger on in Moss Market Group to date has been a long-term play.
Yeah.
I've looked at it as a career for them forever. I've looked at it as a partnership. I've looked at it as like, never once have I looked at somebody like they're going to be gone in a year.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
It's hard.
I would really struggle with that. Like having that person to then say like, I'm going to pour into, I'm going to give all this effort that where does it go beyond that?
Yeah.
So how do you kind of manage that?
Oh, so
I mean, it is. I mean, it is a good question.
Alex is
Seriously,
impressed
though.
over there.
like kind of a split thing for me because the manager thing is kind of a sensitive subject because I just lost a super key person like yesterday. I'll get to that. High schooler wise, they're going to go no matter what. So my thing is build a culture they want to be a part of. We're a seasonal business. In the summer, we're super busy. Fall, spring is okay. Winter, we lose money. It is what it is. Our thing is build a culture that they want to come back to. And those seasonal people who are going away to college, KU, UMKC, MU, etc., they come back in the summer so we don't have to hire more people. We stay with our core team. Our college kids come back. They rock with us through summer. They go away. I don't have to hire anyone else. Just so I don't get this bloated team that I eventually have to give like 15 people one shift. Now I have 8 people who get 2 shifts or 3 shifts that they want. So that part really works for us. Honestly, manager-wise, we're still trying to figure out. That's a tough part where we have struggled with. We typically lose managers every 15 to 18 months. And we just lost another one who was 19. She was so good. And so our internal conversations are around how can we keep people? And what we've kind of nailed down is we have to stop hiring super young managers. 19, 20, 24, 26. You don't know what you want yet. So like, and I'm food retail. So I'm not a career path in everyone's mind. So like they're looking at us and they're like, this is a stepping stone to something else.
I will say we ran into, this has been a hell of a year for us on every forefront possible.
Yeah.
But
good way or bad way?
Good, bad, in between, all of it. Like
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Good in learning lessons.
Yeah. When we're stepping forward, it's always happening, but it's also that we ended up with a really young group on vertical of our business. And it was something that I think when you get those really young players, I have flipped my script a little bit on my thought of college, but it's not on the fact of what it's teaching you, but it's on the fact of understanding how to commit to something for 4+ years to yield a result from it, where that's the thing that we have started recognizing from a lot of the college people that are coming in, regardless of what their degree's in.
That's interesting.
They understand that it's a longer path to what they want. Because I struggled with it in college, like year 2, I'm like, dude, this is slow. Like, I feel like I was sitting still, but at the end, to get that diploma is like, you accomplish something. Like, it was just going through it.
Yeah.
Which it's not that to everyone.
That's a really good point, actually. I
think it was just what we've noticed now of some of the new people we've hired. They've been through college, and when they're talking on a scale of time, that we had some people that they're coming to us like every 2 months for raises, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I was like, you haven't done anything to increase your skill set to acquire a different pay.
It's not yielding that.
Yeah.
Are you saying that people who've been through college have worked the muscle of delayed gratification? Like, this is going to take some time to graduate. So they're like, okay, it's going to take the 4 years, 5 years, 6 years.
I think that they're thinking right when they come in, I think college has almost conditioned them to a 4 to 5 year thought process.
Yeah.
Of that return that they're looking for. Because I can even tell when we're interviewing them that like I don't look at resumes. I don't give a shit about resumes. I care about the people that walk through the door.
I look at the resume and then I send it to him. I'm like, this is a good person. He's like, I'm not looking at that, but sure, I'll talk to him.
Vibes,
dude, I literally just like vibe off people, and it's like I want to know. I've had people come in with the most decorated resumes I've ever seen. I've sat with them. I'm like, there's not a chance on God's green earth I'd work next to that person.
Yeah.
I was like, but I don't look at, one of our worst employees we've ever hired was the best resume we were ever given.
Yeah.
Crazy. But it's like, so I don't look at those things.
He didn't see my resume. He didn't ask for. That's what it was. That's why.
Did you get a resume, or was like there was that didn't go down? That was more of like a that was a steal, a recruitment.
That was us.
A hostile takeover over cigars.
That was us over whiskey and cigars.
Like your own thing, this little fun thing. You're not doing that anymore. You're over here.
And I was like, nah, stop it. I'm not doing that. Then 4 months later, I was like, so anyways,
So that idea.
you were talking.
Yeah,
I'm kind of warmed up to it now.
I've been seeing your ads.
No, but I just think that the conditioning of that is when you talk to those people, they're talking about, I want to get to this over 3 years. I want to get to this over 6 years. Where their timestamp of what they're thinking of is much longer, where some of these other people that come in at like 19, 20, 21, they're like, I want to be here in 60 days. And
Good point, actually.
I'm just like, their time frame is just so short on everything.
Yeah.
So that is one thing I will say that, once again, I'm not boosting college by any means.
Sounds like you're pro college right now.
Seems pretty pro college to me. I don't know.
No, I'm just saying some of the more recent hires, something I've seen that I've just kind of noticed a little bit. But
I will also say too, I feel like a lot of that, and again, I do think obviously we really invest in social media. It's a great tool, but you will constantly see on there young kids being like, I'm going to be a billionaire by the time I'm 24. No, you're not.
No.
But it's so consistent all the time. They're like, when I'm 23 and I'm worth $500 million, Gary V, I'll call you and throw it in your face. He's like, I hope you do, because you're not going to be.
Yeah.
There's just, I think that there is a narrative created that 1 out of, a million people, there's a 21-year-old that is worth $1 million when they're 21. But then all of Gen Z sees that and all of them think that they are that person.
Yeah. So to that point, and to your point, like I am pro college in that way, but for the reason where I wouldn't be is I think people say that when they haven't done it. If you're doing it and you're actively working towards it, damn, you know how hard it is.
Yeah.
Because this thing isn't easy. And when I run into people like that are like, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I hope you do that. But like, this shit is really hard.
If you want to lose, I feel that if one word of advice to the Gen Z people that live on TikTok and Instagram and have 50 different side hustles, one, don't use the word side hustle when you talk to people. Fastest way when you're talking to high level business owners. Mm-hmm. I've literally had people come in, they want a job, like, well, I'm trying to pick up a side hustle. Like, get the fuck out of my office.
Yep.
Like,
right.
Like, done. Yep. And the other thing too is when you're telling everyone you're going to be a billionaire in 6 to 12 months, like I've literally had people like within the last 6 months that have no dollars to their name that are going to be billionaires in the next 6 months.
Yeah. That's wild.
Show me the roadmap, please. And they lose all credibility when you talk to people.
Yeah.
Like people, when you say that, and it's like, I hope it does happen. But I want to know out there of the Zuckerbergs, the Cubans, the Bezos, which one of them did it in 6 months?
Yeah.
Please show me. Like out of all the billions.
It seems fast though,
Yeah.
but if you look at their whole story, like they're working at that stuff for a really long time.
Right.
Yeah, you look at all of those guys, like please show me the billionaire that was created in 6 months, because you want to go around guys that like even the highest level players in Kansas City are millionaires. And like you said, the guy you're talking about earlier, maybe a billionaire, like close, but it's like you have a lot of these high level millionaires and these 21-year-old clowns will come around him and they're like, I'm gonna be a billionaire in 6 months. Like, I don't listen to anything you say now.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, and they're just like, man, cool. Hope, like they're not gonna talk down to it, but it's also like
it's always like, yeah, good luck. I hope you do it. And
Yeah.
if you do it, come back. Let's talk. Like tell me how you did it.
And then they're out telling everyone like, yeah, I talked to so and so. He said I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, he just was being nice.
Right.
Yeah.
I was like, but in reality, don't do that.
Yeah, it's so damn hard. I think it's interesting to, well, one, I think the podcast thing like this is a very interesting thing because some people are going to read books, some people aren't going to read books. I think you were saying like you don't read anymore.
Somebody was on the podcast that said they didn't read.
Okay,
a lot.
so
I still do read quite a
I'm
bit.
in that ballpark of like I used to read so many books and like now I really don't because I'm so busy. I'm the guy that's going to go on YouTube and just get the summary for it, and I know that's cheating for it, but I just want the nuggets of the thing of that you're trying to teach me, and then so I can move on, so I can apply that thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm missing a lot of context by not reading. But I think whether you read, whether you're watching YouTube videos and actually trying to apply it, or however you're getting your information, I think it's great that like you have this subset of people that say like, oh, I took this information, I listened to Gary Vee or Alex Hormozi, and now I'm going to be a billionaire in 2.3 seconds. But then you have others who are like studying this stuff, like live in it, and they're trying to apply it. Like there's so much knowledge out there. And I think that's pretty dope. Like we're seeing these successful people sharing their success that other people can learn from. And I think that is dope. I think entrepreneur culture annoys me online. But I think just in general, like it takes a lot of different voices and for people to learn from to get where they're going to go with it, because something's going to break through. Like how many times have we heard something and it didn't resonate, and then you hear it and you're like we talked about Alex Hormozi before in your office. Yep. Like he just breaks it down in a way where it's easier to comprehend, even if you've heard that thing, or like a lot of stuff he talks about, I learned in college, but it wasn't presented in a way that I knew what the hell they were saying. And then he's like, here's this little doodle that I did on a napkin. I'm like, that's amazing. That makes so much sense.
Which I think he is the king of compression. That it's something I've had to work on a lot on just my stories in the morning when I drive into the office. Like that minute-long story, most of the time it's like 5 minutes of thoughts I'm trying to compress into a minute. Yeah. And it's like that compression skill that he has where he can hit a topic so well from beginning to end in 30 seconds is an art form. And like he talks about compression, understanding how to do that, simplifying it to where people understand.
He's a master.
And you can tell people about it, but that doesn't mean people can execute it. It's a completely different mindset of, I know people that read way more than me, and I read a good amount, but I also have gotten a lot more disciplined that I used to, like when I started a book, I felt like I had to finish it. Yeah. Now, if I'm like 2 chapters in, I'm not like getting anything from it, toss it, save my time on to the next one. Yeah. But like the hospitality book, like I love what it's touching on because it's like, it's bringing me way back down to the small things. It's bringing me back down to thinking about those that you need that as a business owner.
Those small things.
Those kind of books, I have huge takeaways from, but I'll have the hard copy of it. I'll have it on Audible. I'll have it in multiple different versions to where it's like, I'll be reading it at home and I know I'm getting on to chapter 3 and then I have an hour drive somewhere. That's good. Audible it and then I'll get another 3 chapters. But it's like, I can complete a book in multiple different ways. And I'm like, okay, I read 6 chapters in this book and I listened to the other 10.
I need to start reading again.
That's what I was going to say when you were talking about this. I was like, you realize that there actually is a perfect medium. And it's called Audible.
Yeah. But like those are like 8-hour books. I need that in like
no. Minutes. So then you can take the 1 times pace. You turn it up to like 1.5, and then just like read it a lot faster.
So I go about 1.2. 1.5 starts going a little fast for my brain. I'm like, dude, this guy's talking fast.
Like you're just rewinding over and over. Like, wait, what?
Well, it also depends on the person who's reading it.
That's true. There's some
so true. So Dane put me on your next 5 moves, like Patrick Bet David, which I love this book. And he doesn't talk too fast, but then you get some other people, and then they're speeding through the entire book and they're talking really fast. I'm like, all right, hold on, never mind. The 1.5 is not going to hit for this one.
1.5, so that puts it up to like 2.
But back to your point on the entrepreneurial space online, I do get annoyed with it also, even though I feel like I'm very much in that circle too. But I get very annoyed with people that talk on it that have no credibility to talk on it. Yeah. That credibility means everything when you're speaking on those topics. Like the roofing companies out there are telling every other roofing company how to do it, and they're a one-man show. Yeah. Like, don't tell everyone how to do it. Yeah. Like, put your grind in, put your head down, go make it. Like, but it's the same thing that when I talk with business owners and I try to give advice on things, I normally try to find business owners that are like less than 5 years old, that are still in that early stage that I can talk very educated on that it's the same road I'm taking. Yeah. The person that has 200 employees and all this stuff and they're asking for my advice, I'm like, I'll give you something. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. Shit. Like the game's different for you. Like
there's you have at least a step behind you where you can pull them up to where you're at.
Mm-hmm. So that's where like I've been talking about like writing books. That's like the next step is I want to write books, but I've talked about writing a book on the first 3, and we actually had a lunch, and the guy's like, you could hit a lot of different variations off that. But I was talking the first 3 years of business, that everything you read is so high level that the first 3 years of business, when you're trying to read Hermosi stuff and he's talking on like a $30 million level, I'm like, dude, sounds great. How do I make fucking payroll next week?
Yeah.
Like, can you help me how to get that done?
Sleeping in the back of my store because I don't know how to hire people.
Right.
I need to fire someone. I'm terrified to do it.
So it's like,
debt's going up. How do I address that?
I'm like, your numbers that you talk about, cool, but nowhere near any of that. Like,
yeah, 100%.
And it's also a lot of times when you have these, like, I like Ed Milet a lot, and when you get into reading these guys' stuff, the level's so high that you get into some of these coaching groups, and they're like, well, hire this person, this person, this person. I'm like, I don't have the money to hire all those people. I'm like,
money.
Let's back it up. Like, how do we get to where we can hire those people?
Yeah.
So it's like, I want
100%.
to write something on like the first 3 that this is your guideline stepping into business.
Yeah, I think that's good. My first book that opened it up, that made me understand that I wasn't the only one who was thinking like entrepreneurially, was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is like the first book for a lot of people who are kind of getting into this thing. And I've read that book 400 times. Got into his other books, all that kind of stuff. And the problem that I didn't understand that was going on with his books that I now understand is almost none of it is applicable. It is very high level stuff, and not even on the level of the guys you just named of like use other people's money. How the hell do I do that? Like,
whose money? Who's they?
Who's they? Is this a bank, an investor? Where are investors at?
Do you have they's number? Like what's they's email?
I left the dealership.
Read it so many times that I'm like, I don't understand this, but it inspired me to stay in that mindset, but I didn't know how to apply any of it because there was nothing to apply on. So when there is things like that you can apply, that's the stuff that I love. Like, Hermosi is so high level at this point, and I love it because now I can understand it and implement that. But like, I wouldn't have been able to understand that at all. Like, I speak his language because I've been in it for 13 years. But year 1, Isaac, absolutely not. Like, that was so foreign to my existence at all. Like what I was saying earlier, like I literally was trying to fire a girl, sat down with her, chickened out, and she worked with me for
promotion.
She ended up later, but
she actually took my job.
Worked for me for a
How about
year.
you get promoted?
Wait, hold on. You had her for a year after wanting to.
A year. And I finally got rid of her at that point, and she got like no better. I was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. I was 20. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
23. So then, like, I listened to a lot of stuff, and actually, my guy back in the day was Tony Robbins. I listened to his stuff over and over and over and over and over and over again. And it was for hype, but I was also trying to learn. Like, he had like a 4.5 minute video on his business mastery program that he did, and it was so hype that I just listened to it over and over. Like, and I was trying to learn some stuff through that, and I don't know if I did, but I learned a lot in the comments.
Yeah, it was.
It
was fun.
Thanks for listening to the M3 Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Want to learn more? Check us out on Instagram at Moss Marketing Group, on Facebook at Moss Marketing 58, or on our website at mossmarketinggroup.com.